And you're listening to WZRD 88.3 FM, The Wizard. And we are proud to have Steve Solomon in studio with us after performing. Thanks so much for sticking around to talk a bit.
Oh yeah, I'm glad to be here on this late Thursday night.
I know, how long have you been playing piano? I mean, were you taught as a child to learn how to play?
Yeah, I started when I was 4 years old, and I took lessons with one great teacher in Chicago. Her name is Julie Levison, and I stuck with her for 14, 15 years, and I think my feet could barely touch the ground when I was a 4-year-old, and I don't remember much of that. And about 10 or 11 I started playing jazz piano and improvising and started writing breakup songs, and I think that's when it took off more.
Did you ever learn any other instruments? Did you pick up the guitar or anything like that? I mean, sort of, I know learning to play the piano, sort of, they teach you the foundations of how to read music and whatnot. Did you go on to other instruments as well?
Yeah, piano is a great instrument because it's literally all the notes, in the whole range of, playing music. So you have all 88 keys from the very bottom to the top, so it really feels like an orchestra. But I went to Western Illinois University, and I actually have a music ed degree, and I learned all the instruments. They made you learn like cello and bass and drums, and I never played any of them very well. I learned them enough just to get by. And I can play crummy chords on guitar. That's the extent. And I can fake my way through ukulele and mandolin and stuff, because I love improvising, so I can kind of get along and get by on other instruments. So a little bit.
You mentioned improvising.
I do it all the time.
Do you?
I'm doing it right now.
Like when you, do the songs change when you perform them? I mean, like,
yeah.
Let me change the lyrics or change it up a bit.
Yes, they change every single. The lyrics and the structure usually stay the same, but within that structure, I'm always changing it. One, because I never like to play the same song twice. I think it's just boring. I mean, classical music is different because that's a whole different genre, but with pop and jazz and all that, I love seeing where it goes every single time. So I'll play the skeleton of the song, which is the chords and the melody and the first chorus, but then I'll improvise and I'll see where that goes. And it could be 10 seconds, could be 2 minutes of improvisation.
Sort of, last week we had a jam band, and then we're asking. I was telling you, I was like, when you perform, in a jam band, it could be, a guitar player could have, 2 minutes, or he could have 10 minutes. And I told the head guy, the lead, he's like, how do you know people? How do you tell them to stop?
Right.
Stop improvising, right? And he's like, well, we sort of know. I'll give them a dirty look, basically, so they can stop.
We'll give them the bird or something.
Yeah, but how about yourself? I mean, if you start improvising, do you know, like, okay, I'm gonna have a beginning, a middle, and an end, or it's like, okay, I'm sort of getting tired of this. Let me stop and switch to another song.
Well, I just gotta say, I've been to jam sessions where they have gone on too long. You can just tell, it's like a run-on sentence where they're just going and going and they don't stop, and they just keep talking, and they just keep going on and on forever, and you don't know when they're gonna stop. And sometimes it's like that with music, and you kind of literally have to throw your hands up sometimes if they go on for more than 5 minutes. But for me, I really don't know where it's going sometimes. Once in a while, if I know I'm gonna record something, I will kind of plan out my solo, or I'll plan out some parts that I normally wouldn't. But when I'm live, I like to feed off, who's ever in the crowd or how I'm feeling that day, and which makes it really exciting. It's like life. You don't know where the next day, the next week or month is going to be, so it feels like I'm really kind of improvising, like I am with this interview right now. No kidding.
So you moved to LA now. How long have you been in Los Angeles?
Been there just under 5 years, and I moved there in 2015, and I live in a neighborhood called Laurel Canyon, which is a really cool area. It's a cool part of town. I live in a nice place with I crammed a baby grand piano in there just recently. But I grew up in Chicago and I've lived in Chicago for 25 years before moving to LA.
Did you go to Los Angeles just because you think that there would be more opportunities for you to perform music or make a career out of performing music?
Yeah, I mean, Chicago has a great music scene. They have really cool venues and musicians and players, and the industry's great here. And part of going to LA was just to try something new. Went on a trip to Europe, and after that I realized, I think I want to try a different city. And I've always loved the West Coast. Have you ever go out there?
No, I haven't.
Oh man, it's wild out there. I used to not like LA. I used to love San Francisco because LA was just big and smoggy and wild. But now I'm all about LA, and I just want to go out there to explore the music opportunities. I do a lot of piano performances and songwriting and co-writes. It's really a jungle out there for songwriters and musicians.
I know a big thing about like opportunities you have in Los Angeles is sort of writing. Some people have made they're musicians, but they can branch out, or they've branched out to like being session musicians, right, or writing jingles. Have you branched out to that? Have you done any jingle work or any session work?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I kind of like jingles. I call jingles a mini pop song because you have like 5 seconds, and it's got to be catchy. It's got to stick in your head. And the time it takes, obviously, to write a jingle is like a 20th of the time it would take to write a pop song. So I haven't done any jingle stuff, but I have done studio sessions, and I play at parties and weddings during the day, and at night I like to run around town going to jam sessions and songwriting sessions and playing original music.
So, like doing that, you carry your keyboard? Carry your keyboard with you?
I do. In LA, there's a lot of great things about LA, but LA also is very expensive, and it's hard to get around on public transportation compared to Chicago. So I lug my piano out to a lot of these gigs, and sometimes I have a keytar actually. You ever see a keytar? It goes around your chest, and it's a guitar plus keyboard, and it's literally from the 1980s, but it's really fun. And so I'll lug that around, and so I don't really your earlier question. I don't really play other instruments other than voice and piano, but I have this keytar. I also have a melodica, which is really nerdy. Yeah, I'm a nerd at heart. So it's you play that, it's like a harmonica. And then the last thing I like to carry around is in my car. In LA, people kind of live inside their car sometimes because you drive around so much. I have a portable baby keyboard that I like to songwrite with when I'm driving around in LA. Now I don't drive and play piano because that's dangerous, but if I get an idea, I'll pull over and I'll bust out this little baby keyboard and I'll start playing. So I have several keyboards that I take around.
At home, do you have multiple keyboards?
Yes, I have a couple Yamahas. I don't have like any of the crazy Junos or Nords. I don't have room at my place for it. I have a tiny house, as I call it. But I did get a baby grand piano that I was stoked to get. That is my baby that I play every day. But I have a Yamaha keyboard. That's the only other instrument I have electronic wise.
I guess with the keyboards, is there a difference in performing a live actual piano as opposed to a keyboard? Do you go about it differently, or for you it's supposed to basically your playing doesn't change whether it's keyboard and organ or piano?
Oh no, great question. It changes every single instrument I play based on the piano. So my preference is for acoustic pianos because just the richness and the fullness of it, you can't beat that. But some electric pianos are really cool, and I played on really great pianos and I played on terrible pianos, and sometimes I'll be playing at piano gigs, and the client hires me to play music, and it's a terrible piano, and so the keys stick, and the pedal sticks, and you just avoid those notes, and by the end of the night, half the piano I can't play, and I just got to make sure they don't realize that. I should write a book on all my piano gigging experiences. I'll call it "How I Survived the Piano Gigging Scene." That's a working title, by the way.
Or also, if you get a machine that's not working, like you have to I guess I can't play that song on it. Or
Right, or in music there's 12 keys. There's C, C sharp, D, D sharp, or E flat, all the way up. So there's different keys, and if there are notes sticking in a certain key, I have to play it in a different key, which can be difficult sometimes. So you have to adjust, which goes back to improvising on the spot.
So yeah, we're speaking with Steve Solomon, visiting us from California.
But a Chicagoan at heart. Lived here for 25 years.
Did you switch allegiances? Are you you put ketchup on your hot dogs now?
But I always put ketchup on my hot dogs, and people gave me so much flack for it. Look, I put ketchup, mustard, onions. Those are like my staples for hot dogs, and then throw in tomatoes, and I kind of like a little hot peppers now. But those are my staples. But I always put ketchup on it.
Did you switch to soy milk as well?
That's a good point. I hate to say it, but I did get more healthy going to LA. Like, the food is fresher out there, I gotta admit. And the people are kind of like health nuts. It's kind of weird. People are like, they're a little bit of health nuts, but they like their junk food too. So I'm a little bit of both. But I did not give up the Chicago allegiance. I always, I feel like that Kanye song, Homecoming or something. I love coming back to Chicago, and it's always going to be my hometown. But LA is great. I'm loving both places. I always tell people, if they can, they should try to experience California, either visiting or living out there at some point in their lives. It's just a gnarly place.
Did you pick up surfing or anything like that in California?
I didn't pick up surfing, but I picked up the Californian accent. I can do it kind of at a whim, dude. You talk about directions out there. You take the 405 to the 101, and you get off on the 2, but not the Sepulveda Pass. So you pick up the accent. And I can still do the Chicago accent a little bit. So I kind of go back and forth.
Going back to
Alejandro's giving me a really funny look. I don't blame him.
Going back to your piano, when you perform gigs, do you get tired of people saying, "Play the piano, man"?
No, I mean, look, it's a way to connect, and I don't mind when they ask. And it's funny because when they say, "Oh, do you know any Elton John?" What they're really saying is, "Oh, do you know any Tiny Dancer or your song?" And when they say, "Do you know any Billy Joel?" what they're really usually asking is, "Do you know Piano Man?" And I'm like, "Sure, yeah." I always got a smile on, and I play it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I love that song." And of course, I love certain songs to play, and there are songs that I've played a million times that I could take a break from.
As a piano player, for me, I'm not,
Do you play piano?
No, I don't play piano. But, at you as a musician, is Elton John or Billy Joel, are they really good piano players, or they're
they're
just
great.
better songwriters?
They're both. They're really talented. They're like the trifecta. They're great piano players, songwriters, and vocalists. And I think that's why they have the magic. But what I think for them and many artists similar to them, I think what shines through with why they're so memorable is their songwriting. I believe that you can kind of get away with, and this is just my opinion, but you can get away with a not as stellar performance. I won't name artists, but sometimes if you have the emotion and it's a really well-crafted song, that's what comes through. And I think Elton John and Billy Joel have that. They have that every time they perform when I hear them.
We're a topic of, I guess you want to call them pop artists, or, pop artists that play piano. We mentioned Billy Joel and Elton John. Tonight I just saw on Facebook feed that I guess Lady Gaga is performing at Wrigley Field, and I'm like, oh, she's a piano player too.
I didn't know she played piano.
Yeah, I forgot where I saw her. She played piano. She did like a whole piano song. But
Lady Gaga, if you're listening, get me into your concert.
well, yeah, I thought you knew that. I was gonna ask you what you thought of her as a piano player. But
Yeah, I remember that she I kind of had a brain fart. I remember that she does play piano. I concentrate. I just listen to her vocals and her songwriting so much that I should listen to her piano playing more.
I know you have some music out on, well, a few releases out.
Yeah.
Are they all piano based, or did you bring in other people to give you a hand to add some parts to it?
Yeah, so if you listen to my recordings, they're fully produced with a band, actually. A lot of people are surprised because when they see me live, for the most part, I'm playing solo piano and a couple shakers and foot pedals. So it's mostly acoustic, but my recordings are, I like to fully produce them, and I have musicians play on it, and I have synths and, drummers and backup vocalists. And I have 12 singles out, and since we're talking about that, you can go to, if you just type in Steve Solomon on the Spotify's or the Apple Music's, that's Solomon, you should see me pop up. And you'll also see, it's kind of interesting, I have my alter ego. He wears a red mask and tuxedo, which is a whole nother story. But I'm just trying to make something kind of memorable and kind of weird and trippy and odd. So you'll see me in the what I call the Masked Man on my socials.
Does the Masked Man have a name? Is it?
Yeah, he's the Masked Man. Copyright. That's his name. I won't tell you who he is, but he's a cool person, male or female. We don't know who it is underneath.
If you go to stevesolomonmusic.com, it's not funny, but there's a Spotify list and they show 12 songs.
Right.
And underneath it says plus 75 more original songs.
Right. Yeah. Well, I am trying to I'm kind of a goofy person, and some people think that the masked person, it's kind of weird, but it's also goofy, and that's what I'm trying to portray myself as, because I like to have fun, and I'm not even intentionally goofy sometimes. It just comes off that way.
Are you a big fan of Randy Newman?
Oh yeah, I love Randy Newman. I love the 70s musicians, Randy Newman, Harry Nilsson, Paul Williams, but Randy Newman which is another example of, he's got an interesting voice, but his songwriting and aura is just out of this world.
Yeah, sort of like when you mentioned sort of like the improvised song, sort of not too serious, kind of goofy. Like, oh,
right. Tongue in cheek, and I love his orchestral arrangements. I really dig that guy.
So you're based in California currently. You come to Chicago once in a while. Have you? Do you gig around like I know have you like people from California might go to Washington to play a few gigs, or Oregon. I mean, have you done that? Have you played out and about in different states?
Well, the West Coast is size-wise, it's like 2 to 3 times bigger than the East Coast. So traveling, it's really wild because I'm used to 4 or 5 hour drives, whereas here you drive 4 to 5 hours, you're like in Detroit almost. Yeah. But you drive 4 to 5 hours, you're still in California. I played 3 shows last month in San Francisco. I played a So Far show, which is a really cool house concert company, and then I played a couple other shows, very intimate house concerts in San Francisco. And last year I played in Phoenix, and then those 4 shows in Europe. So a little bit I've dabbled on the West Coast. I'm hoping to play some more on the East Coast, and also like Milwaukee and Indianapolis. I'm trying to set that up in a couple months. And I will be back in Chicago. I go back to Chicago every couple months or so to play a lot of piano performances, and I go back every December. I have a ton of gigs in December.
Do you still have a lot of family here in Chicago? Or?
I do. When I'm in Chicago, I stay with my parents, and I'm an only child, so I actually have a pretty small family here, and most of them have moved out west actually, to San Francisco, and I have family in Orange County, and then they also are out east. I'm half Filipino, and all my Filipino family's out on the East Coast.
Going to talking about Filipinos.
Yeah.
I guess are you big into the karaoke scene then?
Yeah, I'm an average karaoke or whatever you call it. But I definitely have uncles and aunts that are like literally everywhere they go, they will take their karaoke machine whenever they can. It's true. The assumption is true about that in Filipinos.
I have a neighbor, and they're Filipino, and
Nice.
and they'll have they're not big partiers, but they'll have some parties over the summer, and they'll be out there karaoke
Blasting the
until
karaoke, yep.
blasting the karaoke. I'm like, okay, that's fine,
Yeah, I wonder like how that became really big in Filipino culture.
I'm not sure either.
I'll
I was
totally
surprised too. When I saw my neighbor singing, my heart will go on.
Right.
I'm like, oh wow.
There's a couple of, I can't think off the top of my head, but there's a couple of really popular songs that Filipinos love to sing karaoke to.
They love the ABBA.
Oh yeah, ABBA, probably Whitney Houston, and Celine Dion, of course.
So I see that your website is stevesolomonmusic.com.
You got it.
Was Steve Solomon taken? Did you see who took it?
Well, I actually, for my piano gigs, I have stevensolomon.com, which not to confuse people. But yeah, Steve Solomon it's like $4,000, so I'm not buying that right now. But there's a couple Steve and Steven Solomons out there. One is an Olympic athlete named Steve Solomon, and a couple years ago he emailed me asking if I could sell him my other website, my piano website, stevensolomon.com. And I said, for 5 figures maybe, because I really don't want to give it up. And he passed on it. And then there's a comedian, Steve Solomon. So there's a lot of Steve Solomons. Or not a lot, but there's a few.
So yeah, then it's great that you put music after it. So
Right.
I'm looking for the musician Steve Solomon.
Exactly. And funny story to make a short story long. I used to go by Scatterplot, and I just wasn't relating to that, so I just went by my real name. But I've gone through like 5 or 6 website names. I'm just tired of changing it, so it's just Steve Solomon Music. The world out there is, you're always thinking about what's your username going to be, what's your screen name going to be, which can be really daunting and annoying sometimes. You just want to pick it, and sometimes people, have your screen name or your website name, and you have to think of some creative way to, make a new name, and just gotta do it and move on.
Sounds good. If
Yeah.
people want to follow you, what's the most updated resource for Steve Solomon?
Yeah, the website, and then also Instagram. You can just type in Steve Solomon, and like I said, there's a few Steve Solomons, and they're all cool. But if you see me and my red mask friend, you'll see that's me, the Steve Solomon that you want to follow and hang out with on Instagram.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Steve.
Yeah.
And since you sort of mentioned it, and you said you're kind of a nerd at heart,
I am a nerd at heart.
we're gonna hear, I guess, "Odd Boy" by Steve Solomon.
All right.
On the Wizard. Thanks so much. Thanks.
Are we off?
Yeah.
That's the old version, which is fine. But
Yeah.
Oh, there's a new version?
Yeah.
This is cool. This is fine. Yeah.
Is there a way you could play the new version?
Yeah, this,
No. Where is it?
It's just on my Spotify.
Oh,
no, because he'll.
Yeah,
Oh, will you be able to-
it's easy.
yeah.
That's just fine. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
That was great.
Thank you so much.
And loved your question. I used to work for CBS. So I loved your interview.
Yeah, man,
Oh,
great interview.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Great question.
Yeah, I mean, me and Rick always laugh where there was, you're from Chicago, so you know WGN Radio. There was a host on there. She's a female, and one of our DJs was in a band, so he's like, oh, listen, I'm gonna be on WGN. They're gonna